live very shortly.
Okay. So I don't touch it until it's over.
Yep.
Slide it. No, I don't slide it. When it's over, I slide it.
Yeah. There you go. Okay. It says it's published. Here we go.
It's contagious. Josh, when we're done, just leave it right here.
Yeah.
Get him in. Moshe.
You gotta share. You gotta share.
The picture's great, but his reaction also.
Help! Oh boy. Gesund.
How you doing? All right, you're on a roll over here. Must be.
All right. Sorry. Okay.
It's visiting day, no, today?
Next week.
Next week.
I mean, for me at least.
Oh, for you.
Yeah, next week there's no Chabura. Next week I'm going to be working on Bitachon L'Maisa as I travel with multiple children for multiple hours in a car. So I'll let you know how it goes the week after. Bitachon L'Maisa trip next week. Okay.
You got this.
Thanks.
I mean, I actually believe that.
Great, thanks. There's a big shaila. Can you have Bitachon for another person? It's not for now. Anyway. Okay.
I believe that the Rebbeinu Shalom is going to give you all the chaychas that you'll need.
Amen. So we're officially on page 135. We are in still the Bitachon L'Maisa Sheb L'Maisa. We're discussing a person's needs. Last week we expanded. We'll see how we have a person who's achrai. He has responsibility for other people's needs. But before that, just to get a little bit of a head start, a running start here. So the Chovos Bavos was telling us that between Hakadosh Baruch Hu and a person, a single person, if a person does the proper hishtadlus, which is what a Hakadosh Baruch Hu wants, then a Hakadosh Baruch Hu guarantees that this person will have what he needs, his basic needs to live, his basic food, his basic clothing, his basic stuff. You can rely on a Hakadosh Baruch Hu. Daini, you can be calm, knowing that Hakadosh Baruch Hu will take care of you. He said then that sometimes a Kodesh Baruch Hu will decide that certain people, and this is the way it works in this world, that some people will, without necessarily stressing, again, we're in the world of Bitachon, so there's no stress. Without stressing, a Kodesh Baruch Hu will pile a lot more money on top of them. They'll get more than they worked for, and a Kodesh Baruch Hu gives it to them, and therefore he has what to do with it. Right? We did say though that with bitachon there's no need for that. No need for that. If a person wants to utilize his kochos and he wants to stress and he wants to be anxious and he wants to plug away at monetary wealth and he wants to stay up long hours and maybe even get himself sick for it, it could be that he'll become wealthy. It could be. It's just not with bitachon. It's from Hashem. Kodesh Baruch Hu wants, if this is what the child wants, but if a child wants really badly to kill himself for this thing called money, because he thinks it's worth it for him, so Hashem says, okay, I'll give it to you. But you're going to stress, you're going to be anxious, and you're going to worry, and so you'll get what you want, potentially, not always, but it will not be in a calm way with bitachon. Right? This is what goes on all day. However, again, if a person does receive more money than he needs, and he did it in a way of bitachon, dahainu, he didn't stress. He might have worked hard, but lav dafka, he was working hard because of the money. He was working hard because, I don't know, maybe he's a doctor, or maybe that's just what he's good at, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu likes when he works hard, and it's good for him to work hard. It's good to keep him out of trouble. Whatever it is, Kodesh Baruch Hu gave him a lot of kochos, and therefore he's using his kochos, and he's working hard Again, not stressing, not anxious, not worried. It's a different world. And then a Kodesh Baruch Hu gives him a lot of money. So now what? Now what do you do with that money? So we discussed last week, as before we get to that answer, sometimes, and this is part of this sugya, sometimes a Kodesh Baruch Hu gives a person the achrayus, the responsibility to take care of other people. A wife, kids, workers. We don't know how far it could go. A king, we said on page 134, you have a king who has servants, ministers, advisors, deputies, groups of servants, assistants, and they all have wives. So you could have one person, and king, of course, being the highest, he has many, his whole country underneath him, or whatever countries. You can have a person who has a achrayus, or a Kodesh Baruch Hu put him in charge of a lot of people. That this person becomes the pipe in which money comes from a Kodesh Baruch Hu to these people, right? So this happens. And Kodesh Baruch Hu chooses that. Sometimes a person, often mistakenly maybe, decides he wants that himself, right? We said last week, a person's offered a promotion, which is going to mean more responsibilities. You become the manager of some sort, or the CEO, or something higher. Of course, it comes with monetary benefits, and that's why most people jump to that. So I want to make more money. I got to have more money. But it comes, as the Chovos HaLevavos, comes with a tremendous nisayon. To be achray, to be the pipe between a Kodesh Baruch Hu and other people, it comes with a heavy price. A lot of nisyonos to try to balance your bitachon, being a shliach of Hashem, being nice to the people because you're just a pipe. It's a big mixture of emunah and bitachon and midos, and it's difficult. So if a person, again, we're only talking to people who want to live a life of bitachon, which means a life of living with a Kodesh Baruch Hu in a tranquil, calm, serene way. That type of person would think twice or 3 times or 4 times and really run through the sugya if he's offered a promotion of sorts. Is it worth it? Right? Just because it's more money sometimes brings more problems, brings more daiga. And that might not be kedai. We have to run through the sugya according to the Chovos HaLevavos. Now, last week the Chovos HaLevavos said, if you are in that position, whether you were already in that position, whether Kodesh Baruch Hu put you in the position, or you decided that this was the right move, you needed the money maybe, and therefore you needed to bump up, whatever it may be, you have to be very weary and very careful of 3 potential mistakes. 3 potential mistakes, which of course are klali. There's always minor mistakes within the major. So last week we discussed the first one. And the hakdama to that first mistake is that when a person has this feeling of responsibility, he's the pipe for other people. So it comes often with a heaviness. Right? There's a lot of responsibility on your shoulders. You feel that not just your wife and kids, them too, of course, but the workers, their families, that their entire world is also on your shoulders because you're the boss. Sometimes.
If you have bitachon, you shouldn't feel like that.
But
everybody's replaceable.
It's true, but a person, there is room though for midos. There is room that to have rachmanis on other people. But even if you're about bitachon, to have rachmanis, if this person is going to, lose a job, and therefore he has his own world and he has to work on his own bitachon, this person, but there's still a rachmanis, there's still compassion, there's still feelings that you can have beidam l'chaveiro appropriately.
But if you have bitachon, you shouldn't stress about it.
You shouldn't stress about it.
Because you know that whatever happens to you is for the best. Whatever happens to him is for the best.
It's true. However, what are mistakes that could happen when a person, if he's not the Baal Bitachon, the mistakes, what can happen?
The stress.
He might, because of the stress, besides, that's obvious, that's a problem.
He might think, I am his parnasa, I'm the source of his parnasa.
And therefore, he might try to make money in inappropriate ways. Whether it means mamish ulcer, but not even that. Right? We said last week, we made a diuk, bad and shameful ways. Or the Sefer Chovos HaLevavos says, Megunim v'roim. Roim, ra is bad. Megunim Muguna doesn't mean it's usher, it means it's degrading. So we saw on page 134 on the bottom. We saw on the page 134 on the bottom of the notes. Shameful refers to occupations that disgrace the person. They're degrading, even though they are permitted according to Torah. Right? So a person might do silly things. He might not be able to handle the pressure, right? That's on his shoulders. And he might make mistakes in how he goes about that parnas, that hishtadlus. He might rationalize, this is not really usher, maybe it is, whatever, it's okay, because anyway I have to take care of these things. HaKadosh Baruch Hu wouldn't have put me in this position. Right? You have all types of rationalizations. If you wouldn't have these people under you, you would be free from all of these situations.
So a person working, like you just said before, crazy hour, it's kosher, it's not, he's a businessman, he's a doctor, he's a businessman, he's not, everything's kosher, everything's above, it's beautiful, but he's working 29 hours a day, that does not fall under this mistake.
No, that was earlier mistakes. Stam of hishtadlus. That's stam, a person, his own personal hishtadlus, how much he should be putting in, according to the understanding what bitachon and hishtadlus and what Kodesh Baruch Hu wants from you. That's there. That was a while ago.
I'm in this severe now, because now you say he has grown children and they are struggling, let's say financially, or he's a grandfather and the grandchildren.
Wait, let's get to that. Let's get to today. So the first mistake again is that a person, because of that achrayas, he might do things that are silly, maybe even usher. Page 135. Now let's get to another difficult situation. So 135. V'hasheni, the second mistake that these people might make. Again, the person who has people underneath him, a wife, children, workers, etc., etc. V'hasheni ki hu choshev shekol ma shegi'a elav min hamamon hu teref mezono v'lo yovin ki hateref mischalik l'shlosha chalakim. So the Chavos Vavos is going to teach us proper banking, how to look at your bank account. He says the second mistake that he makes is his belief that all the wealth that has come to him is for his own sustenance. It's my money. I made it. It's all mine. Tens, hundreds of thousands, millions, it's all mine. But he doesn't recognize, as a Chavos Vavos be'emes, that a person's income is divided into three categories. Now, we have to believe the Chavos Vavos, because I don't think he's going to bring rayas necessarily. We can explain it, but again, I have never seen anybody openly argue with the Chavos Vavos. There might be different approaches in general, but no one argues with the Chavos Vavos. So you're talking about the Baal Shem Tov, who says about the Sefer, the Vilna Gaon, the Chassam Sofer. They all learn the Sefer. I didn't hear any problems. So whatever he's about to say, we have to believe in the tzaddik, in the Talmud Chacham. Now, he says three categories basically of our bank account. Echa mehem teref mezono v'hu kalkolas gufo bilvad v'hu hamuftach min Elokim l'chol shebaruch chaim atachlis yom. So this part we've already learned. The first, right, maybe the most important potentially in your bank account is about you. The income is for his sustenance, which refers to that which nourishes the person himself. His own food, his own clothing, his own personal needs. This category of income is guaranteed from Hashem for every living being until its end of days. Kodesh Baruch Hu guarantees, therefore you can have bitachon in the basic needs of a person. We did discuss parenthetically that we have to know a person once in a while, it's kedai to think about what his basic needs really are and what's the excess of basic needs. Right? The person has to know that also. I don't think a single person needs a mansion of 20 rooms. I don't think that's what's needed. So to say that, well, I need the millions in the bank account for my own personal needs because I have this mansion, I don't know if that's going to be appropriate according to the Chavos Vavos. Maybe other shitas there are. I don't know. I'm going with this. Right? The Chavos Vavos says the basic needs. Person needs certain luxuries, but where does one draw the line? It's kedai once in a while to think about it. It's kedai to think about it. We've gone well past the line in many areas of life, and in order to have proper bitachon, in order to live a life of tranquility, of serenity, trusting in a Kodesh Baruch Hu's goodness, kindness, trusting the Kodesh Baruch that He knows what's best for me. It's kedai to once in a while think about what you really need and what are wants and what are like weiter wants. It's very important. As we explained, just chazing over, that when you get into the world of wants, again, wants and needs, there's some overlap between the basic wants and the needs. Sometimes basic wants are needs. A vacation might be considered a need. But then there's madregas where above the line, now you're in the world of nisyonos, that it's very difficult. Not impossible, but it's very difficult to truly trust HaKadosh Baruch Hu in those areas. Trust doesn't mean you're not going to get it. Trust means to be calm while you either run for it or you have it. Right? Person has a super duper expensive car, and then the gas bills for the supreme gas is now jumps $2, and they start going crazy out of their mind. But no one told you to have that car. So to trust in the Kodesh Baruch Hu, no, it's okay. I'll be able to take care of it. Everybody loves the gas prices, If you remember, I said there's a few things that people, their entire world is revolved around. Gas prices, the stock market going up and down. What was the third one? I don't remember. I think probably rates. Probably, what's it called? Interest rates. These are like the three numbers that, for people who know them, their entire life is like dependent on those numbers. You might not even be buying a house, but if you hear the interest rates are going down, it's the craziest thing in the entire world.
You gotta add the weather to that also.
The weather. Okay. Now what? If you think that's a daily.
People who
we discussed the weather people. Yeah. That's a daily. These are numbers that are more, the prices, the flows, the stock market, up, down. Okay, anyway. Back to our business here. Fine. So the first part of a person's bank account is for his own sustenance, which we'll see, I think he does say it somewhere, is actually the least amount of money needed. Your own personal needs, how much does a person really, really need for himself? Now, let's go right there. V'hasheni, teref mezon zulaso mi'isha ubanim, va'avodim u'misharsim v'hadom alehem, ve'einenu muvtach men elokim l'kol abruim, elo l'segula mehem b'tanoim miyuchadim. V'hu mikra mizdamim be'es achas, ve'ein mizdamim be'es acheres, kefi shemechayvos halichos din ha'borei min ha'chesed v'ha'mishra. Listen to this very carefully. I'm going to translate the way they did first. Then I'm going to just make one change, which they probably know more than me, but it reads better a little bit according to the way, for me, it reads a little bit differently, not better, differently. So first I'm just going to read the way they translate. The second part of the bank account, the income that a person receives for the sustenance of others, right? You are the pipe, you have the achrayos for other people, such as his wife, children, servants, assistants, and the like. Workers, whoever it may be, this category is not guaranteed to come from God for all his creations. Rather, it only comes to a select few. These people receive it based on specific qualities that they possess. This category of income will be occasional. At times it will be available, and other times it will not be available. Whether the person will receive this extra income or not will be based on the Creator who rules the world with kindness and judgment. So, the people that you have achrayos for, HaKadosh Baruch Hu sometimes will give you the money for them, and sometimes not. And so it's up to him. It's up to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You might have all the good intentions in the world. You might have people who work for you, who you help support, but it sounds like from the Chovos HaLevavos, sometimes HaKadosh Baruch Hu will give it to you to give to them, and sometimes not.
Can we divide this category 2 into two things, into 2A and 2B? No, I'll explain why.
One second, look.
Okay, go.
Write it down, hold on. So I want to make the emendation I want to just make is that when it says it comes to a select few, if you look at the Lashon, at least of the Chovos HaLevavos, which is not his original Lashon, because it was written in Aramaic, or Arabic even, I think Arabic. It was translated into Hebrew, so I don't know what the original is, but the Lashon is, Ve'einenu muftach men elokim l'kol abrum elo l'segula mehem. So l'segula, it has I think the word's connotation, that it means a few, but we're called the Am Segula. Right? We're called the Am Segula. What does Am Segula mean? It does mean that we're the smallest nation, but it means special. It means treasured. It means
Select few.
No, I don't want to say select few necessarily. Even though it is true that if you're a segula, it's usually the select few. It's true. We're the smallest nation. We're the select few. But I think it means more that a Kodesh Baruch, it comes to the people who are Kodesh Baruch Hu, they're masugul lakach. They're special. They're treasured. Why? That's up to a Kodesh Baruch Hu. He says, why they masugul? B'tanaim yichadim. There are certain conditions. Doesn't explain why. And we don't know why. But there are certain people, for whatever reason, there is a specific reason, only God knows, why they have been chosen to have a wife, children, and even more. Right? For some people, like, what do you mean? Most people, Baruch Hashem, have a wife and children. Not everybody does. Not everybody does. And there are reasons for that. And Chavos Vavos gives reasons. He says that you have to know how to look at that if a person can't find a wife. That's a shalom. Can't have children. There is a bitachon for that also. We learned about that earlier. But even if a person does have a wife and children, how many children or how many workers, or it's a segula and a Kodesh Baruch Hu chooses. And he says, again, sometimes you'll get it, sometimes you won't get it. And it's all according to the Dinei Habore Menachesed V'Mishpat. It's up to Kodesh Baruch Hu. It's his choice. The major nakuda I think that we have to start thinking about is that when a person he's the middleman, when he has the achrayas for other people, we have to know how to look at that. According to the Chovos Avos, we are messengers of a Kodesh Baruch Hu. We are messengers in terms of taking care of emotionally and mentally and ruchnis and spiritually. But we're talking about gashmias here, but it's everything. We are the middlemen between a Kodesh Baruch Hu and our wives, a Kodesh Baruch Hu and our children, a Kodesh Baruch Hu and whoever else we have to take care of. We're shluchim. If we were chosen, if we're mesugul l'kach, HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave us this opportunity. It's an opportunity because everything we believe that we were given from a Kodesh Baruch Hu is to help bring out our lein kochos, to bring out the best who we can be, like we discussed already. It's the best for me. It comes with achrayas, but it doesn't have to come with stress and anxiety if you have the proper bitachon eyes. But you're mesugul l'kach. Sometimes the Kodesh Baruch Hu gives you a wife, sometimes not. Sometimes he gives you a wife and children, sometimes not. Sometimes he gives you a wife and children, and ones you have to help support, and sometimes he doesn't. And sometimes you feel like you want to support them, but he decides when you have that amount or you don't have that amount. It's up to him. You could want all day long. You have a child, and they need some parnasa, whether they're in learning or whether they're working and they need some help. And of course you want to help them, but sometimes you don't have to help them. So on one hand, you have tremendous rachmanas, ben adam machavero, your own child. But on the other hand, according to the world of bitachon, you're pater. Again, according to the world of bitachon, you're pater because it's a Kodesh Baruch Hu's achrayas is ultimately with that person and that person with a Kodesh Baruch Hu. I'm sometimes a middleman. Sometimes I'm not able to be a middleman. That's what I'm reading. We can work on this together because these are fine, subtle points. But that's what I hear from the Chovos Avos, which doesn't alleviate us of our obligations or potential obligations. Adarabah, it gives you more of an ability because you're not scared. A person might be scared, I don't want to help support this person because what happens if I can't support them? It's going to hurt me. They're going to look at me bad. There's all this social, emotional stuff. But if you look at it as you're a shliach, you're an Amazon driver between a Kodesh Baruch Hu and somebody. You're the middleman. If I can, if God gives it to me, then I'll give. If he doesn't, I can't. I still love you and I still have emotions for you that you have to struggle, but I would love to help you. You're doing everything right and you don't have to be stressed that you can't help. You have rachmanis for the people. There's nothing wrong with that. It's not stress. That's a gevaldik midah of teferis, of rachamim, empathy and sympathy. One's the chitzonius, one's the panemius. That's for another time. But it alleviates all of this heaviness. When a person takes upon himself extra heaviness, that means he thinks he's God. That's what it means. It means he thinks that it's on him. Yes, you're in the back.
Sometimes it's better for the child not to be supported by the father, or even to be raised. Not sometimes, very often.
HaKadosh
People that
Baruch
have a
Hu
modest
gives us-
raising,
Yeah.
upbringing,
Sometimes.
they accomplish a lot more than people that are comfortable. A lot more.
This
they
is-
have less issues.
This is the sugi of chinuch.
right.
Sugi of
So
chinuch.
a person should not just not stress. You should say it's good for the child.
If it truly is good for the child. See, when you get to the world of chinuch,
If it is, the child may not realize it right now, but when he's 30, 40 years
True.
old and he's a successful entrepreneur, he'll realize that all of his friends who were comfortable did
sometimes
not have
yes.
the drive.
Sometimes
he had a
yes.
drive. So,
What happens if he doesn't make it though?
In the world
You
of
know what?
chinuch,
making it is very subjective. Making it.
the world of chinuch, we're talking about children, has to run through the rules of bitachon. Have to.
Absolutely.
You are a shaliach by Kodesh Baruch Hu. You were chosen for these children to help raise them in Ruchnis and Gashmis. And you have to try your best with the eyes of bitachon to raise them. And sometimes, like, there's a million, everything's complicated and every situation is different. But it for sure could be that even if you have the means to help a child in a certain way, it's possible if you work out the sugya and you have to make sure that it's not your own stuff going on. It could 100% be HaKadosh Baruch Hu's ratzon not to give the kid money. But again, it has to be worked out properly. It has to be understood according to the eyes of bitachon. It's not simple. So there's no kind of arguments here. It's too fine. But of course it's true if it's run through the proper ways. But the major point here is that we have to have the right perspective of who we are in all of this. Does this answer a lot of your questions? No, it doesn't answer a lot of your questions?
It's some, but that's not where I was going.
Okay, yeah.
The 2a and the 2b is, it says, well, you have an achayis to your wife. Especially, let's say she doesn't work, and her work is raising the children. So let's leave alone grown-up children or teenager children who are starting to think and working about their own bitachon and who do this kind of work. Talk about the small children that you have in your house, in your not over budgeted, in your regular, normal, average life. You have a wife and you have a couple of children. Let's say, how is the achrayus for them? How can it possibly be different from your own? The halacha, the ksuba says you have an achrayus for your wife, and certainly halacha says you have an achrayus for your children to feed.
Of course you do. We didn't say that. We didn't say that. We didn't say that here.
Wait, it says.
What does it say? What does it say?
The second, the income that a person for the sustenance of others, such as his wife, children.
Yeah.
Children.
It says sometimes will come through.
What are we not saying? We're not talking about achrayus here.
No, yeah, but
The second part of your bank account is for your wife and your kids.
it says
What does
not
it say?
everybody gets it.
So what do you want to do?
No, one second.
Of course you have to try.
But I want to argue clearly, incorrectly so. But I want to argue that my wife and my children. I'm not the ones that are grown and doing it, but my wife and my small children come under category 1.
So you want okay.
That's why I'm saying 2a.
I don't know exactly what
like
to
a
say.
package deal. Hashem should give you everything.
It's I have to pay for the yeshiva tuition. I have to clothe them, my children, my wife. Let's say the wife is not.
Can I just interject?
Yeah, sure.
So, if that was true and Hashem would support, then everybody would pay full tuition. But you know that.
Okay, but not tuition. Clothing and food, shelter, clothing and food. Forget about tuition.
Okay.
Right.
We're just in this category. We're talking about. Let's look at your bank account. That's what we're talking about right here.
The world. Hashem sometimes has periods in people's lives where they struggle, and they need assistance to finish the month.
That's
That's what he's saying.
Yeah, I understand that, but then let's say a person by himself with all that he needs $100. Okay, and that would be not super duper, but it wouldn't put him below the poverty line. $100 is what a person, a man here needs for himself. And let's say he needs with his wife and so some number of very small children, he needs $150. Okay, so the way that I'm understanding the Chovos HaLevavos over here is that $100 is guaranteed, and the $50 is not guaranteed. And I'm struggling with the fact that these $50, which to me seem to be like you said, a package deal that should be also guaranteed. I'm struggling greatly with that.
I hear what you're saying. I don't know what to say.
You
could look at the note.
Why Hashem made it that way? Because this is the reality.
No. Well, you're very hard over here.
No, but
I'm trying to understand your
right.
question.
What is he? What do you want? What do you want from the? What do you want?
What I want
that a Kodesh Baruch should guarantee 150. That's what you want.
I think I'm not saying. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I'm just. Are you? Because it sounds like. Are you drawing a distinction between one's immediate family, which I get here, and then it goes on to say servants, assistants, and the like. That's
yes, with one modifier, one's immediate family that do not have the ability to do for themselves.
I think if you read this note down on the bottom, it says that for my wife and children, regardless, God will find them a means for their sustenance. In the manner discussed here, the husband and father merit to be God's messenger and provide for their family instead of their needing to go out to work on their own.
So then, okay, so I like that, and then I would like to interpret that that's simply part of one.
Okay. The nafkamina here,
Yeah.
is, the nafkamina is in the world of bitachon, where we are, what can we trust in a Kodesh Baruch Hu, and therefore what can we become knowing, trusting that it's going to come? Yeah. We said before, what you need, just you could become. Kama Kodesh Baruch Hu and take care of you for your basic needs. The big nafkamina is, can you add your wife and small children to that? I would hope to say yes. He does. I hear you.
But look,
I hear you.
It doesn't mean you don't have to do the ishtadlus.
No, I'm not disagreeing.
Right. Again, the nafkamina I'm trying to say is just in that field.
Here's the thing.
Their basic needs are also guaranteed. It just may or may not come from you.
Some people are going to be avionim. No, and the one
hand, sometimes the kids have to go out
very, very wealthy, and some people very, very.
It's hard in the emotional sense to wrap your head around.
That's how Hashem made the world.
But the Chovos HaLevavos is giving us the rules unemotionally, because he has to give us the rules as the rules are. Emertzim shouldn't happen, but
it happens.
But
this is the world.
But he's built the achrayus in. HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
This doesn't achrayus. Again, this is the bank account. How to look at it.
Right.
No.
Do you have it? You don't have it.
I understand that.
Be very clear.
But is this the moment that I step on the moment that the ring slips on her finger when I say Hareyat Mekudeshet Li.
The intention is your intention.
Yes, you have a chrayas.
So no, it's my obligation.
Right, and it's your chrayas
to
follow it.
No, but it doesn't always work out like that. It doesn't mean that.
Okay, so I only got $100. I'll eat, and you and the kids you'll
No, give it to her.
I have a kasha on you. What's in the kollel husbands? That only.
Okay, guys, we're going off the rails.
We're gonna come.
The kollel husbands have that intention.
Okay, now's not the time for this.
For the first 10 years, or
Moshe, I'm gonna think about this.
Please think about
We have to be very clear. It's always with Chovos HaLevavos. Be very, very clear exactly what he's saying and
very
not
systematic.
So,
but she has the intention to work in.
Okay, I'm gonna keep reading.
Yeah, go ahead.
Actually, I'm not gonna keep reading. That's the truth, because I just want to make another point. We'll have to think about this to get it clear. Not next week.
By the way, this is not one of my trying to be difficult things. I'm really.
No, I understand. It has to just be understood. Again, I'm not looking at the bank account. I've been using the word achrayas, but that's an outcome of this. This is how do you look at your bank account? Yeah. Be cold intellectually. Look at your bank account right now. Imagine the number, $1,000. So $100 is for you. $350 is for your wife and kids.
Yeah.
And then there's an extra little bit left, which we were going to get to right now. Okay, but it's how do you look at your bank account? If you don't have it, you don't have it. Okay, maybe if you only have $100, so give it to your wife and kids. But how do you look at a bank account? So I want to get up to the third mistake, which is on page 137 on the top. So let's read this. Just read the middle here. Unlike the first category, which a person is guaranteed to receive, this extra income is not guaranteed to this person, the tati, and depends upon the person's possession of certain qualities, they'll make him deserving, and it's up to Kodesh Baruch Hu. So I just want to add this note parenthetically. Again, this is my own understanding. We said earlier that in the world of Bitachon, whether a person is following the Torah properly or not, you should always try to follow the Torah. But if you're not, for whatever reason, that should not be an ikuv for a person to have bitachon in Kodesh Baruch Hu. That should not prevent you from having trust in Kodesh Baruch Hu. You still can trust.
That's the seventh quality.
Now, I think, however, when it comes to a person being the pipe between him and other people, it may actually matter if you're following the Torah or not. Okay, this is my own addition, but I think it makes sense that even if a person for himself, he can have bitachon in a Kodesh Baruch Hu for his own needs, whether or not he's learning Torah, he's keeping mitzvahs, and he should always have bitachon. But when it comes to the support of his wife and his kids and others, you need certain qualities. And I'm not saying it's vadai, you need Torah and mitzvahs, but you could assume it might be. And if you're not making the achrayas and you're not able to help the people you're supposed to help, and you're not following Torah and mitzvahs properly, it behooves this person to be mechazik himself in Torah and mitzvahs, because that might be the quality that's missing. Capish? Okay. End parentheses. I think it's important. Very, very important. That would be a chizik for a person to help working on his Torah and mitzvahs. If for himself he can't get to it, but if it's the people who are depending on you are depending on your Torah and mitzvahs, that might help be mechazik a person to get the shul on time. Okay. Page 136. Let's finish this third, not the third mistake, but the third part of the bank account. Right? How we're looking at a bank account. V'ashlishi teref kinyan v'hu hamama asher ein bo to'eles adam v'hu shomer lo v'notzer so ad asher yurishenu luzulaso u'sheyovad mimenu. Listen to this. The third, the income that he amasses, which refers to the money that benefits no one, because right now you don't really need it. Your wife and kids don't need it because you already gave to them what they need. Instead, what's his third category? Which is, for some people, it happens to eat most of their money. Instead, he guards it and protects it until he either pass it on as an inheritance, right? You're just a money manager, you're just a banker, to someone else, or it will be lost from him. All this excess, what's the point of it? Now, if you want to go a little bit scarier, this is a line that I like to quote. Listen to what he says. V'hasochol yachshav kol asher gazu lo aborim min hamamon shu teref mezono v'kalkoloso gufo v'hu memayri lov mishtadel lov ve'efshir sheyikabtzenu lebal ishto acharov ulohorgo v'gadol shebesonov. It's a scary line. The foolish person considers all the money that the Creator has decreed to be his in the category of income, that is for his own sustenance, for his own needs. All my money, the millions of dollars, I need it. I made it, it's all for me, I have to have it. It's mine. Therefore, this person, he hurries to obtain it. I need all the money because it's mine, it's my, for my needs, my wants, everything is mine. So therefore he hurries to obtain it and make efforts for it, despite the possibility that he is amassing the wealth for the future husband of his wife. Right? All that money is going to go to her for her second husband after this guy tanks. Right? This guy made millions, killed himself. And then it's going to go to his wife's second husband.
Not if I could help.
His stepson or his greatest enemy. What was the tachlis of all of it? It could go to one of these places. Who will inherit after his death? Again, this is just how you look at the bank account. Of course, with this proper perspective, if you've taken care of the needs and the basic wants for yourself, and the needs and the basic wants, and maybe we'll go up 2 levels of wants for your wife and your kids, right? You have to give them a little bit more than you have, or 3 levels of wants. But then all the excess, all the extras, so either it's there because you're nervous, you're worried, you need all the money for chasanas and college tuitions, and some of it, I understand. Not me. I'm sure the Chovos understands. But some of it's not there for that. So what are you going to do with it? See, this is where a person, if he looks at the sugya properly, it can help him give tzedakah, use it in a wise way. Otherwise, either it goes to the good organization that helps children get shoes, or it's going to go to your stepson or your husband's second wife for his shoes.
Also, not to take too much risk with your money.
Because it might not be yours.
Let's say whatever Hashem wants for me is going to come, whether I take a lot of risk or no risk. So this is going to come.
The sugya of investing also has to play through the rules of bitachon.
What?
Why are you learning this with us? He got this.
He learns it all day, every day.
Do chazara.
I'll go upon him. So these are the two mistakes that a person who is the pipe between HaKadosh Baruch Hu and others might make a mistake. He might make a mistake in how he acquires the money and how he looks at his money. In 2 weeks, we'll discuss a very, very, very important nekuda where it gets into midos, and I really want to give it its own time. How midos plays a big role, or bitachon plays a big role in midos, and how we see others and how we deal with others, and it could change a lot in how we respect others and be on the way.
So I'll tell you this: I grew up with a Holocaust survivor father, okay, who was the son of a Holocaust survivor father who lost everything in Poland. Like the year before, they were wealthy beyond, and the year before Auschwitz and all that stuff, they lost everything. It was real estate, it was this, whatever. They lost everything. So my father, grew up with that, and all he ever talked about was nach 120 by mir, as long as my family said I'm good. It's all I ever heard my entire life. So all my machshavos and the rewiring that's going on here is major. I would like to live with my wife and my children, my grandchildren, it's Hashem. But the thing is, as long as I know they're set, I'm good. And then I don't care what happens.
But it's not your responsibility to make them that. It's nice.
This is what he's trying to get to.